Good morning, audience. When we saw the schedule for this panel, we started taking bets on whether the audience would outnumber the number of panel participants. But I said, 9 o'clock, third day, that's an excellent time because we know that everyone in this audience is hardcore. Or they just didn't stay up too late last night. Or they haven't gone to bed. Touche. But we definitely thank you for your interest in this exciting topic. My name is Aaron Kallenberg. I'm the son and grandson of an Alaskan commercial fisherman. I'm also the founder and CEO of the Wild Alaskan company. Wild Alaskan is a direct-to-consumer seafood company that ships seafood directly to doorsteps in all 50 states in the United States. In Alaska, we have a lot of pride for our fisheries. And the culture for generations has worked intensely, deeply, with a lot of heart, blood, sweat, and tears to make it one of the best fisheries in the world. But more and more, this generation is noticing that Alaska is facing challenges, both domestically and international. We're here to talk about some of those issues. On this panel, you have 5 Alaskans, including myself, and 1 Icelander. So there's an interesting backstory to this panel. Lacey and Erik Velsko last year called me and said, do you want to come to Iceland? There's some amazing innovation and technology that KAPP is working on. And I said, I'm double booked, but we ended up sending Haley. And we came back completely inspired by the technology and what Iceland's doing in its fisheries. And we all collectively said, God, we have to implement this in Alaska. And we realized that, Alaska is among the best and often touts itself as the global gold standard for sustainable wild fisheries management, that we have a lot to learn from our Arctic neighbors like Iceland. And when I talk about learning, we talk about it from a cultural perspective, we talk about it from a technology perspective, and we talk about it from an industry perspective. So we're back for round 2 in Iceland to talk about some of the things that we learned. And we hope, maybe, just maybe, that Alaska still has a few things that we can share with the rest of the world as well, and the Arctic in particular. So I have a few questions for the panel, and then we'll open it up to audience Q&A. I wanted to start by framing the catalyst for change, and I wanted to ask Casey a question. Casey, you've built Yupik Girl Seafoods from the heart of your community. From your vantage point, what are the biggest pressures small local harvesters face right now in Alaska, economically, culturally, or environmentally? And what's the first domino that needs to fall to see true systemic change take place?
Waka. Hello, my name is Casey Coupchiak. My Yupik name is Akhorokchuge. I am originally from the village of Coupchiak on the far west side of Bristol Bay, and I've been commercial fishing my ancestral waters for 16 years. Since I inherited my grandfather's drift permit. I also own a small direct marketing business called Yupik Girl Seafood and advocate for permanent protections for Bristol Bay salmon habitat through my work at Commercial Fishermen for Bristol Bay as the outreach and event coordinator. From our community in Coupchiak and communities throughout Bristol Bay, I believe we see 3 main pressures squeezing small local harvesters. We are trapped between high operational costs and global commodity market that undervalues our premium quality. Crucially, the big processors are the ones benefiting from the low price model, capturing the majority of the profit and value-added steps. This is exacerbated by severe infrastructure needs in our villages, which prevents local and small boat fishermen from competing, forcing us to export raw resources and the corresponding profits. The lack of profit makes fishing an unsustainable career for our youth, risking the loss of Yupik traditional knowledge and the deep gichtichuluki, or in short, respect, that defines our stewardship. Climate change is disrupting salmon runs, but the immediate pressure is regulatory. We see large industrial fleets intercepting fish right at our coastline, impacting the nearshore stock that sustains our small boat fleet and village food security. For true systemic change, the first domino that must fall is infrastructure. The ability to capture, process, and sell the full value of the fish is currently controlled by distant external systems. We need modern community-based processing capabilities that serve small boat fleets like ours and return profits directly to the local people. Focusing on infrastructure fundamentally changes the outcome from merely shifting power to creating and retaining economic value within the community itself. By building modern energy-efficient processing plants in villages like Coupchiak, we immediately capture the value-added steps of flaying, packaging, and freezing. This keeps the economic multiplier of jobs, payroll, and taxes at home rather than exporting raw resources and profits to distant ports. Infrastructure forces the adoption of better technology. We move from being commodity suppliers to sophisticated producers. This includes cold storage, ensuring our premium quality fish, like that handled by Yupik Girl Seafood, is maintained at its highest value. Energy efficiency, integrating solar and wind technology to power these facilities, aligning our growth with climate responsibility. Local infrastructure creates viable, respected jobs for the community's young people in processing and management, not just harvesting. This supports the intergenerational transfer of knowledge, making the entire wild fisheries food system resilient and economically attractive to the next generation of Yupik stewards. So in summary, if infrastructure falls first, it creates the essential foundation of economic self-determination. This is the practical mechanism by which indigenous harvesters can leverage technology to secure a resilient future for our fish and our community.
Thank you, Casey. So, one of the interesting things about Alaska is we have so much fish in Alaska that, while the fisheries are generally very well sustainably managed, we haven't had to, like other fisheries around the world, focus as intently on quality. And so we've been pushing a new word in Alaska, a new phrase, quality at scale, because we have the scale, but the question is, how do we keep the quality? And again, we've been very inspired by what Iceland's been able to do with quite significantly large fisheries, but also quality. So I wanted to turn the question to Oli at KAPP, an Icelandic company. Oli, you've described how Icelandic fisheries in the 60s and 70s realized that traditional flake ice methods weren't enough to preserve true quality. That shift from rough handling to smart handling became essential as markets demanded it, looking for high-grade seafood. Can you take us through that moment? What pushed Iceland to innovate so early? How did that understanding of quality as opportunity transform your industry? And this is something, again, in Alaska, we're intently interested in understanding and getting ahead of.
Yeah, sure. Thank you, Arron. My name is Olafur Sigurdarson. I'm the Deputy CEO of KAPP. You can call me Oli, like Arron just did. We are a solution and service provider for the seafood, retail, and protein industry. Well, to the question, like you said, in the 60s and 70s was kind of a tipping point for Icelandic fisheries. What happened back then is kind of a mindset shift, I would say. Back then we realized, maybe looking back to a bit what Casey said, the consumers were willing to pay a premium for a better quality. However, at this time, we faced the challenge of not being able to deliver that quality. So back then, just like today, the market doesn't wait. If you don't have what the market is asking for, they happen to go elsewhere. And for us, we identify as a fishing nation, it was important to find a solution to this. And what happened basically back at this time is kind of a collaboration looking at the methodologies on how we could improve the quality. And I think fisheries back then, just like today, for seafood and other raw material, understand how important the cold chain is for quality of food. So not only to cool it down to the desired temperature as early as you catch it, but also maintain that quality through the temperature throughout the whole chain. So what we had to do and what pushed basically the innovation so early is the fact that we tie it back directly to our livelihood. We wanted to protect what we have as a nation, and we want to be competitive. So we collectively had to work across the value chain with people both from the fisheries, the buyers, and of course the consumers as well, to find ways. And the thing is that the current ways of cooling down the catch at that time using ice was not sufficient. We were able to catch plenty, but not catch the true value of the seafood that we were catching. So, and we know the story today, and I maybe unwind that a bit later on, but we had to find ways to cool down the catch early. And you might ask, why is that important? It is important because otherwise you allow bacteria to grow. You allow spoilage to happen. And most of us know spoilage as bad smell, bad texture, etc. But there are more. There are like drip loss, which is not only important for those that are selling the fish because of yield, but is also super important for us as consumers because of the nutrition. That all contains nutrition that we need. So you could basically say every drop saved is a nutrition saved. So for us, it was about protecting the livelihood of where we come from, being competitive, and making sure that we could use technology for that purpose. So not use technology for its own sake, but to make something better. I would say that was the key value driver for that change. So making us competitive and forward-looking. Yeah, so it was a mindset, I would say, that kind of unlocked that technology that followed afterwards.
Thank you, Oli. So in Alaska, as I mentioned, we're finding it harder and harder to compete. That same volume, massive volume of fish that is harvested sustainably every year in Alaska is fetching less and less on the global markets, especially where most Alaskan seafood is sold. Fun fact, Americans don't eat the majority of the seafood harvested in Alaska. It's exported abroad. Fishermen, processors, and coastal communities are all starting to feel that pain. So I wanted to turn the question to the Velskos, to Erik. Erik, in Alaska, what was the equivalent turning point for you and Lacey? The moment that you knew you couldn't keep doing things the old way. Was it market pressure? Was it climate change? Something in your own lived experience that said, we need to rethink this?
Thanks, Aaron. Erik Velsko. I'm a lifelong commercial fisherman. Grew up in Homer, Alaska. Started fishing at 12 or 13 years old, and now I co-own Kaia Fisheries with my wife Lacey, who's sitting here, and a couple other companies. We fish Bristol Bay also for sockeye salmon. I am a licensed captain as well. But in relation to the question, for us in Alaska, we followed this kind of commodity market, and it was actually pushed on us early on in a lot of our salmon fisheries. Is Alaska wanted to get into the quantity markets, and the premium side of seafood quality was kind of just a small niche. It wasn't as important. So that model kind of translated through, and as the processing entities consolidated and we fewer and fewer options to sell our fish, it became more and more important to harvest more fish was kind of the answer to make more money. And currently I'd say in the last decade, we've noticed as rising costs, operational costs, our fish prices have pretty much stayed the same. It's been a fairly stagnant market. And we have lots of different fleets in Alaska. It's not everything comes shoreside to get delivered. We do have catcher processors that operate offshore, and those vessels always had commanded a little bit better market than we did on the shoreside deliveries. And I'd spent some time mainly in the Bering Sea fishing Pacific cod and crab and other species where we processed on board, and I kind of watched those markets and realized how much of a difference the price points were between onshore and offshore. Fast forward a few more years, and I wanted to stay home more, so we invested in some inshore vessels, and operated closer to home. And I was just shocked at the prices, mainly for our Pacific cod fishery, because it was such a good fish. And that stagnant price was it just kind of stuck with me. And so we were looking for ways to improve the quality and get this Pacific cod into a different market, get it out of the commodity market, and try to find a way to get a little more value out of the product. We're fishing on small boats too, and we'd base our business plans on millions of pounds, instead of, hundreds of thousands of pounds. It was, I need to catch this many million pounds to make this business profitable, which seems crazy, for a boat that's 58 feet long. You were, is in the equivalent, you'd have to catch 1,000 or 1,500 tons for a boat that size to basically to make ends meet and make the payments and keep the business cash positive. So I met the KAPP folks in Seattle, actually, at Fish Expo. It wasn't Oli, but it was one of his predecessors, En Frere, who's the owner of KAPP. And I saw this liquid ice technology they were doing. I'm like, man, I wonder if that could translate to something we're doing in Alaska. So I sat down with them for probably an hour, and they said, you need to come over and take a look at what we're doing. Just so you see, and I thought, I've fished my whole life, I know what I'm doing, and we waited a few months, and then I thought maybe I should go over. I started looking online and looking at what these guys were doing, and we came over, and it was pretty shocking within the first, they scooped us up at the airport, and we went right into 3 or 4 different plant tours around Iceland, and it was like, whoa, we need to really get going in Alaska to keep up, because we are way behind. And so this was 3 years ago now. So I've been over here every year since then to, for this panel, obviously. And then last year we were here for some other functions. And that turning point was basically like watching that commodity market fluctuate and being totally reliant on that commodity market, because we do have years where the price goes up and it is, fairly profitable when you're still locked into that volume mindset. But then we always have these shifts, so we have this oscillating market that we follow, and I think that's just how it is when you're in the commodity markets. We see it with our agriculture as well, and I wanted to get out of that and just get somewhere where we could have a steady price, consistency, transparency. That's all the stuff we were looking for. And it took a while, though. I had the ice machine, the slurry liquid ice machine sitting in Homer for a year or two. I couldn't find anyone in Alaska willing to buy the fish for more money. All our existing processors, they acknowledged that we needed to make a change, but they didn't. For them, it was such a new concept to them, or such a one-off type of deal that they just weren't as interested. So, and then that's when Aaron came in, and he was willing to take a chance on, helping us get this project and get this fish to market. And then we started, infusing this fish into the fish that Wild Alaskan was selling, and we've had good results. The fish, the quality speaks for itself, basically, and that's what you see in Iceland too. Is their quality is so good that the marketing side of it is they don't have to spend as much time on that, because everyone knows if it's Icelandic branded cod or haddock or whatever it is, it's the highest quality you can get. So yeah, that's kind of a long answer for how we ended up here, but that's that was kind of our turning point for our business, and that Kaia Fisheries is fully locked into slurry ice technology with the onboard tote storage, and we're not going back to what we used to do. We're kind of, we'll make it work, one way or another.
It really was and still is incredibly humbling to taste cod, whether it's harvested in Alaska or Iceland, that uses the Icelandic technology by comparison to the cod that we're used to harvesting in Alaska. And being from Alaska, again, we're very, very, very proud of our fisheries. But when you taste the cod in Iceland that uses this technology, it's absolutely undeniable. We've been here for a week And we've been eating cod, and we would go out to a restaurant, what's the fish of the day? Surprise, surprise, it's cod. Who would have thought? But it's all so delicious. And so when we started bringing this fish to market there, because of the contrast between what Alaska is doing predominantly and what's happening in Iceland, the difference was immediately recognizable with American consumers. And it was a big leap of faith on everyone's part, and again, it continues to be humbling. I wanted to turn the next question to Haley. So taking fish processed with this Icelandic technology to market required more than just great handling. It meant aligning people, systems, and stories across 2 different regions in the Arctic. What had to come together culturally, operationally, to make this possible?
I think there was a lot of trust that had to happen and risk-taking. My name is Haley Kallenberg, by the way, and I'm Aaron's little sister. And I'm a fisherman's daughter, and I support the family business in that capacity. I also grew up with Lacey and Erik in Homer, Alaska, so we all went to elementary school together. And so there's a long history of trust and relationships that are really important to knit together this vertical integration of basically a community coming together to support change and, you know, take ownership of our own success in the community. So I think that when my brother asked me to come and visit Iceland last year, I was thrilled, of course, to come back to Iceland in this capacity. And like the Velskos, I joined them in the tour that KAPP provided for us and was blown away. I was wishing that my late father was able to see this and was able to see what's capable of and what technology can do to support quality at scale. And I think that the trust element is going to speak for itself when you look at how we're all in a win-win-win situation for this this togetherness and being anchored together. So I think the other thing that I want to say is that there's also a incredible amount of risk involved. And this is the nice contingency where, you know, a comfort zone is a beautiful place, but nothing ever grows there. So we understood that there was an element of risk that had to come into play here for all sides. And again, like my brother said, it's humbling to watch people take a big leap of faith. And it was really cool to watch the Velsko family buy the KAPP machinery and start to revolutionize and cause waves in Alaska for about what we could be capable of as well. And so we are really driven to support our direct buy program, buying cod off the boat from the Velskos and bringing it to market with Wild Alaskan Company. And this was a huge risk from all sides of the participants that drew a lot of attention in Alaska. And we're happy for it. We're happy for the attention, and we hope that we can grow vertically stronger through these trust relationships, and then also acknowledge the risk that's involved while creating sustainable opportunities for communities, and then setting a good example for what's possible to build and improve infrastructure needs for our coastal communities in Alaska and empower other communities to take ownership of their success and their contribution to a sustainable, quality at scale product, which Iceland has proved is in demand and will be a relevant fish market globally.
Thank you. So I want to turn to the line of questions to talk about the impact, why it matters and what's at stake here. You know, one of the things about the risk that Haley just spoke about is that there was a lot of risk, and a lot of it is even beyond the scope of this panel. But there are certain things when you become so inspired by this cross-cultural fusion between Alaska and Iceland that that fear is overcome by inspiration. It's like you have to do it. You know that you want to be on the right side of history. So I wanted to turn the question to Lacey, because a lot has changed. And before I turn the question to Lacey, I just want to say how inspired I was, not just by the KAPP technology and the Icelandic people, but by Erik and Lacey's fortitude and vision to come here and personally invest in this technology, even before they developed a market. So Lacey, you and Erik have built Kaia Fisheries around improving fish handling and adding value closer to home. Beyond product quality, what's changed in your community on the back decks of your own boats, and how people work together, how your crew thinks about fishing, how that extra value is beginning to flow back into local life in Alaska?
Thanks, Aaron. I'm Lacey Velsko with Kaia Fisheries, Kaia Seafoods. The way I could measure the success is by how we're able to provide jobs and what kind of jobs they are. And so we see the crew that works on the vessels that have this technology and the product they're able to provide, and the impact is it's brought some light to these fishermen. It's brought some hope that what they're providing is of superior value, and they're able to perhaps stay in the industry longer. They're able to provide for their families better. There was a point in time where, which is kind of right now, where fishing in Alaska people are kind of trying to get out of it, or thinking it's not a sustainable career for them. And seeing that there's other ways to handle fish and to add value, it's giving them some hope that they can have a meaningful job. And there's other things that go along with it besides the wages. It's the working on deck with reasonable hours. Eventually, job on a fishing deck could provide health care, and it all starts with the value of the fish. But we have to provide a consistent level of quality, and that's what this technology is doing. It's a proven model out of Iceland. It's not anything, and I should say, other Scandinavian countries. It's not new to the world, but it is new to Alaska. So the communities are seeing it. It's pretty slow growing, and it's taking a lot to prove it. And it's going to take a lot of time still. But there's hope, when the crew is able to get off the dock or get off the boats and appreciate what they've done and have some pride in what has gone on, that they'll come back, and there is some longevity to it. So
Thank you. So I wanted to go back to KAPP. So you've talked about how fish quality isn't just technical. It's directly tied to livelihoods, food security, which is a big issue that we talk about a lot in Alaska, and nutrition. Could you unpack that a little more for us? The link between handling of the fish and the quality and the community health?
Yeah, sure. So first of all, I'm very moved to hear basically what these guys are saying here, and this goes directly towards what we in Iceland faced at the same time. For me, and I think you hear it through the stories here, it goes way beyond something technical. Of course, fish quality is somewhat technical, or there are technical aspects to it, but it all starts with people. It all starts with us, these guys here, having emotional ties and care about their community, because they want to do something with purpose. They want to deliver something, they want to make sure that their community is thriving, create value, etc. This is basically what business is about today, and this is what also motivates and drives communities. So the link between the two basically is, like I said before, when you create the value like has been done in Iceland, you make the fisheries in Iceland more competitive, not only domestically, but also like globally. Same for Alaska. It can open up new doors, so you can basically do more value from less or from the same. That is directly linked to proper handling, and you can ensure with the right technology to bring the quality that the market is asking for. But it's all about respect, I would say. It's about respect for the fish, it's about respect for the people, and respect for the community. And a good man once said to me, if you respect the fish, you're respecting the people that depend on the fish. And I think that's exactly what you're seeing here. It goes back to the community of Alaska facing the same challenges or similar challenges as we faced in Iceland. You have the same pride for your area, and I actually see a lot of similarities here. And I think that is exactly how it links to the society, where sustainability becomes any kind of a form of respect. It becomes a language of a certain industry, which we see here is the fisheries, and we are just unpacking that with technology. And that technology, of course, also starts and ends with people. And there we can go through, long story short, how we can prevent spoilage from happening, like I said before, where you can extend shelf life. We've done multiple research. We see that we can extend the shelf life of seafood by 5 to 7 days with a proper handling, with a proper cold chain methodology. That also releases the pressure, I would say, for overfishing, enabling us to have or support sustainability when it comes to wild fisheries. So I would say that is basically the link that basically connects the technology and the seafood to the society and the community. And it, as I said before, and I can't put enough focus on it. All starts with people. You have here, for instance, the Velsko family had a certain belief in the technology that had been proven in the market, but it's a risk, like you say. You had to find somebody that was willing to collaborate. It was with you guys. It was with us. So I think, like I said before, it's about collectively collaborating, finding ways, and I think that drive comes from a lot deeper things that are inside you. It ties directly to your community because you want to do something with purpose. And you want to do something not only for us, but also for those that come after, the future.
Thank you, Oli. You remind me of something my late father used to say about the fisheries and life in general. He said, try not to do anything that looks too stupid 10,000 years from now. And that really does kind of frame how Alaska relates to the fish and the fisheries and the environment. You cannot understate in Alaska the communities and the coastal communities and the fishermen and women, how integral and intertwined their lives, their identity, their livelihoods are with the fish. And it goes well beyond making a living. It goes to a livelihood, it goes to an identity. It's something that's passed down. It's something that we've all in Alaska grew up, we're indoctrinated into and we care very much about. So I wanted to turn the next question to Casey. For many direct marketers, Casey, value isn't, as we know, measured only in price. It's also about feeding people, maintaining that tradition, and passing on respect for the fish. How do local values around sharing, subsistence, and community responsibility shape what impact means to you and those you fish with?
That is a fundamental question. At Yupik Girl Seafood and throughout Bristol Bay, we operate under the principle of Gichuluki, which is a Yupik term that best translates to feeling of deep respect for salmon and in turn the ecosystem it sustains. This respect dictates that impact is not measured not by profit alone, but by our ability to ensure our way of life continues. For us, sharing, subsistence, and community responsibility are not side values. They're the foundation of our entire economy. The true impact is cultural continuity and nutritional security, the ability to feed our elders teach our children, and keep our traditions alive. The urgency is heightened by a severe systemic pressure, the mass exodus of limited entry permits, leaving our communities like Coupchiak for owners outside of the region and even outside of Alaska. This is not just an economic loss, it's a cultural crisis. When permits leave, the knowledge, the connection to the resource, and the ability of our youth to participate leave with them. This is where Yupik Girl Seafood is trying to make its greatest impact. We need to prove to younger generations, like my looks or my cousins and family in the village, that they can succeed and thrive in our fishery. YGS is using direct marketing technology to demonstrate that Indigenous-led, quality-focused fishing can achieve premium value, generate wealth, and offer a respected career path right here at our home. Our vision is to see the return of those limited entry permits into local family hands. We are the original stewards of these lands and waters. If we could participate in this fishery with greater numbers, with our deep-rooted respect for the resource, we would ensure its sustained health for generations to come. When we talk about impact, we are asking, are we empowering the next generation of Yupik stewards to reclaim their rightful place on the water? That is how we secure the cultural, economic, and ecological future of Bristol Bay.
Thank you, Casey. So I wanted to turn it back to my sister. She talked about trust and she talked about risk-taking. And, you know, so Haley, how does reconnecting consumers to the people and the places behind the seafood reshape those economics of trust?
I think that we all live in an age now where we want to know where our food is being sourced from and what's the story behind that food, and are we ingesting ethically sourced or sustainably sourced food, and is the food being treated respectfully? Who are the harvesters of that food? I think consumers are demanding this information, and there's a huge opportunity here to prove to consumers who are demanding ethically sourced, sustainably sourced food with story, food that has purpose, that offers purpose to communities. And I think we all know this from a personal experience when you walk into the grocery store or you get online or however you buy your protein or how you buy your groceries, is that we want to know where this came from. We're thankful to have access to understanding the importance of ingesting that food. Whether that's an academic understanding or a traditional understanding about where your nutrients comes from, I think that the community expectation is that the market wants to have an engagement with food that draws the people, the place that it came from, and then on their plate and how they engage with that. Because food is ceremonial in a sense. It's something that gives us livelihood, and having the respect for where the food is sourced from plays into how that nutrients is absorbed in your body. Whether you want to take that literally or figuratively, you know, you are what you eat. And now that we have access to information and education that can educate us on the source of our food, we want to know, were the harvesters being treated fairly? Are there communities being sustained through this product that I've purchased, or am I benefiting a middleman? And we have the continuity and the technology and the right mindset of business engagement where we can help each other and have all boats rise. And so I think that is the important impact that we want to make, is acknowledging what we all want for ourselves and for our children and for the future, is to have sustainably, ethically sourced food come to our tables, on our plates. So when we sit down with our communities and we understand our place in this world.
Thank you. So we'll move to the second to last section. I do want to leave a little bit of time for questions from this wonderful audience. But I want to talk briefly with the panel about moving forward. You know, Oli, you've talked a lot about how this goes well beyond the technology to the people and the community of Iceland and the world. You know, Alaska, our state motto is North to the Future. which I think is applicable to the entire Arctic region. But what lesson, and we're very eager in Alaska to learn lessons and break out of our own naivety and hubris that we sometimes have as proud, very proud Alaskans. But what lessons from Iceland's collaborative model could help Alaska and other Arctic regions?
Yeah, and it goes a bit maybe back to what I said before. What I see is here is very actually powerful. It's about the collaboration between people, and this is exactly what we saw in Iceland before as well. It's the spirit of collaboration, and we can look at Alaska and Iceland maybe very far apart geographically, but if you look at the mindset and you look at the stories here, and if you look at the ambition to go somewhere, it's very close. And to me, that's exactly what is needed. And if you learn from what Iceland has done in the past, the real innovation really is the collaboration. It's a collaboration between the different parties that goes across the value chain. And where you collectively use your knowledge together and you align around certain vision where you want to go towards. And like I've heard here, like it has been in Iceland, it's not easy, but I think what we see, there is a lot of similarities, and Alaska and you guys are definitely on that track. So I think there is nobody naive about anything here. I think it's definitely the right track, and learning from what has been done in the past. So, and the main thing here is just to keep on going. And I think with the passion that I hear from the crowd here, that's the drive, like I said before. So that's the spirit of the collaboration, working together, using the collective understanding of the fisheries, what is needed for the market, listen to the buyer, and use technology to support you with that.
Thank you, Oli. So I'm going to ask the Velskos a loaded question. It's loaded because we talk for hours and hours and hours about this all the time as they are really at the tip of the spear, breaking through that naivety and bringing this innovation from Iceland to Alaska. But to answer this question with only a minute or two, if you could design the next phase of innovation, one where partnerships like KAPP and Wild Alaskan and Kaia Seafood are the norm, what would it look like from a practical standpoint in Alaska? Infrastructure, investment, what would need to take place?
Yeah, that's a good question, Aaron. I think that infrastructure is a huge part of some of our hurdles in Alaska, and so that's docks, cold storage, proper processing technology. We haven't in Alaska. We're a little behind on the innovation in relation to some of the latest and greatest fillet machines and skinning machines and deboning and all these things we see in Iceland that are just standard. You know, I went to 3 processing plants 2 days ago, or no, 4 the first day we were here, and then I went to 1 yesterday, and they all kind of have ubiquitous equipment throughout all these processing plants here. And in Alaska, there's a lot of piecemeal infrastructure, and that has been one of the hurdles that we're trying to get around. And so I think infrastructure is one of the major hurdles. We need to start focusing on that, whether that's through grant funding or federal subsidies or just doing it out of pocket just as you can. I think that's kind of probably our biggest hang up right now, but it can be done. You know, we're kind of just bulldozing our way through it as far as especially in Alaska. You look through the value chain, it's a little uneven when we look at the Icelandic fisheries and the whole infrastructure based around their fisheries. Everyone along the way is thriving and making money, where in Alaska it's disproportionate. So I think if we get that sorted out, everything will kind of fall in line.
Thank you, Eric. So as we've noted, you know, Alaska's system right now and its place in the global economy preferences large volumes of fish moving internationally. And so I have a question for Casey. You know, Casey, you've taken bold steps to chart your own path in an industry that's changing fast. When you think about the future of fishing in your region, Bristol Bay, what kind of support or partnerships would help leaders like yourself drive change while ensuring that small, independent, and community-driven operators aren't left behind?
Yeah, that's an excellent way to frame the future. Support and partnership cannot just be about adaptation. They must be about systemic transformation led from the community level. We need support in, I think, 3 key areas to ensure innovation strengthens rather than displaces our local economies. We need radical shift in the relationship between regulatory agencies and our communities, co-creation, not consultation. We need partnerships that elevate Yupik and indigenous knowledge as co-equal science in fishery management. This means co-creating policy that integrates subsistence priorities and ensures our local fleets are prioritized and protected. Confronting unsustainable practices to confront the multi-million-dollar companies that are depleting our resources. We need agencies to support and enforce a shift toward community-led conservation. This requires technology to provide the data that supports our demands for sustainable catch limits and the exclusivity of nearshore waters for small boat, high-quality fleets. As the first domino is infrastructure, the most essential support must come from within the community, leveraging local assets to capture value. We need committed partnerships with village corporations and/or village councils to pool resources and invest in local infrastructure, and this includes secure dock access and offloading facilities for small boats, modern energy-efficient cold storage, and value-added processing facilities. This investment is the mechanism that ensures the opportunity remains rooted in the community and helps realize our vision for local permit return. And finally, we need partnerships that bridge the knowledge gap between our way of life and the global market. Intergenerational capacity building, this means long-term support for youth engagement and leadership programs that combine traditional knowledge with modern science, policy, and market skills. Educating the consumer and regulator, we need partnerships to tell the story of Coupchiak, to teach buyers, regulators, and consumers about the cultural and ecological care that goes into every pound of our salmon. The more people understand the true value of indigenous stewardship, the more pressure is put on the entire system to protect our practices. With these partnerships, leaders like me can move from simply reacting to market forces to shaping the future, ensuring that the health of our people, our traditions, and our wild fish is the true measure of success.
Thank you, Casey. So they haven't started flashing the lights yet. I'm definitely not known for my brevity, but I think we might have time for 1 or 2 questions from the audience. All right, we've got a hand up. Would you like a mic?
No, I'm loud. I'm Kate Anania, the University of Ottawa. I am a huge fan of Alaskan seafood, and I always have been. But as a consumer who does not live in Alaska, I already think that just finding wild-caught Alaskan seafood is already the premium fish for me. And, you know, I don't know, I'm probably shopping in the wrong stores. But how, for consumers, which, you know, I've worked in commercial fisheries support my entire career, and I cannot always tell, well, most of the time I can't tell what's happening with the sourcing or the processing, where it came from. Why does it say China when it originally, like, it's so complicated, and this is my field. So how do you help consumers understand that this product is not only wild Alaskan fish, which is, to me, already premium, but now it's extra premium? How do you help experts at the store who have no idea what's going on? How do you do that?
I think that question could go to almost anyone on the panel. You know, I would say that North America's standard for high-quality seafood is unfortunately very low, because at least in the United States, what most people are encountering when they're even encountering wild Alaskan sustainably caught seafood is unfortunately not the highest quality because of our preference towards volume right now. So, while it might be the best fish most people in North America have ever tasted, I would say in a couple words, the quality that we're seeing out of Iceland truly does speak for itself in a way that causes Americans just to seek it out and want to repurchase it. United States lost its relationship with local fishmongers several decades ago when it transferred to big box retailers and a global industrial supply chain. And again, there's a great irony in the fact that most of the seafood from America's backyard, Alaska, is purchased and consumed not by Americans. And meanwhile, Americans are are importing largely an inferior, lower quality, often not sustainable product. And so I do think the proof is in the pudding, but we have to get the word out.
Well, I would just like to speak to that because this is one of the reasons that we're here is to run these educational programs on global levels and kind of put these, how important education is for consuming and on what levels us as consumers have to engage. And I think part of Wild Alaskan's public benefit corporation status is that we pay back to the community and work on these educational programs. And I asked my brother, I said, let's come here, let's come to Arctic Circle. You have to see what's going on in Iceland for yourself. Let's do it, let's put in for a panel here at Arctic Circle. We can talk about this, and these are our steps forward towards helping educate the consumer. And so we're always open to strategies about how we can do that better. I think a lot of it sits in brand and marketing, which is a different strategy as well. But this is another way, another front that we can engage with people in educational programming. And thanks to Arctic Circle Assembly for providing the platform for people like us, teams like us, examples that we can show that are offering a positive outlook on what the fisheries are going to look like globally. And so that's one of the reasons that we're here is that we're always looking for different ways to engage with audiences about where their fish is sourced, what communities it comes from, the indigenous knowledge that has supplied that access for generations and generations and generations. This is thousands of years of education that has to go into this. And I think we're determined to look for platforms that are willing to listen and then help us also contribute back. So we're here in the dialogue so that we can build these programs.
And I would add just on the marketing front, at least in the United States, there's a lot of unlearning that has to take place just because of low quality. People think they don't like fish until they try something, either from Alaska that's treated the way that the Velskos treat their fish or from Iceland. Good question. One we ask ourselves. Here's it.
This is so fascinating. The direct-to-consumer market is such an opportunity to provide these channels of communications, both to the consumer and then back from the consumer. So I guess I don't know which question I would like more. Do you get feedback back from the consumer as to quality that would help you measure the value of the investment in the equipment? That's one question. The other question is when you open a box of your product, what is in there, or how does the consumer interact, or how do they get exposed to the stories that you want to tell them?
Yeah, it's a really good question. So Wild Alaskan, I say, is a data-driven marketing and frozen logistics company that happens to sell Alaskan seafood. And we have a very strong, capable data science and analytics team. And the great thing about a direct-to-consumer business model is you get feedback immediately, you get it continuously, and you can measure it. And grocery stores largely don't have that same, not that they don't have feedback models, some of them are sophisticated, but the DTC model is an entirely different animal, and it's so data rich. It's the perfect place to reform seafood in the United States and abroad. As far as storytelling goes, I don't want to hog the mic here. I might turn that second question to Casey.
I'm a pretty small direct marketer. I go to just a couple of different communities in the lower 48, and I physically meet my customers and give them their box of salmon that they ordered. And so I'm able to talk to them and ask how the product was. I only deliver a couple times a year, and just being able to tell my story through social media and just directly to my consumer is how I found success, because I care so much about what I'm giving to the consumer that, that I put quality first, and then kind of tell them that I'm, like, where I'm from and why it's so important to me in my business.
So I think we have time for one more question. Here, sir.
Thank you. My name is Johan Zeelman. I'm coming from Iceland. I've been involved in fishery science and management for many years. I congratulate you to come here and bring fish on the table here at the Arctic Survey. It's extremely important. And I understand you are cooperating, and definitely fish producers all over the world need to cooperate, increase quality, and put fish as a first order food. But I noted that you are talking about this technological innovations as a marketing-driven phenomenon. And I'm sure you're right there. Consumers like to get high-quality food. And you can do that by chilling the food, etc. But I think there was one point missing here, actually. And in the case of Iceland, I think we were driven into the technological innovations and rationalization of the industry because of depleted fish stocks. And so I think that's an important point, actually. So we had to rationalize our fisheries in order to survive for the industry. So I wondered, how is it going in Alaska when it comes to fishery science and management, and what kind of structure do you have when it comes to management and science?
I would say that's an excellent point and an excellent question, and something we're keenly aware of. The pressures on Alaska are similar, but not quite the same as Iceland. But I think the output, the result, we do not want to wait till things get as bad as they got in Iceland for reform. And we're concerned on many levels, especially on the international competitive landscape, just seeing the value decrease, but there are also many fisheries management issues. Alaska, didn't assume its position as one of the global gold standards for sustainable fisheries management by resting on its laurels. There's a lot of infighting that happens day in and day out, generation after generation. Our families are privy to. I want to turn that question to Erik, because Erik has been involved for years and years in the fisheries management and advisory side of it.
Yeah, so Alaska is super diverse. In comparison, we have much bigger fleets, I guess. We've got a large offshore fleet, and large inshore fleets, and multiple areas too, Bering Sea and Gulf of Alaska, two separate areas that both have hundreds of vessels that participate. So as we've got some kind of piecemeal management as well, where some fleets are rationalized and some fleets aren't. And so that's part of the trouble with this. In our cod fishery, we're not rationalized. And so that's been another hurdle to overcome. And we had to just make the decision to slow down to the point where we're fishing like we're rationalized in an unrationalized fishery, which is tough. And so we have to make that trade-off as far as from our own business standpoint, but which no one else is willing to do yet, because from their lens, fishing in the Olympic style way can be more lucrative, but we, for our own business, we had to make some different decisions. So we have some stocks that are struggling right now. I mean, I'd be lying if I said we didn't, but we also have some that are thriving, and I think that's part of that's with as the climate's changed in Alaska, some stocks, like sablefish, for example, has I think we were up over 200% on our sablefish quotas. I mean, we have massive sablefish quotas now, where 5 years ago, it was hard to catch sablefish. So with some pretty drastic changes, and crab stocks took a big decline. They're on the upswing again, but it's a very diverse group of people and multiple gear types, pot, trawl, longline, jig, and then in the salmon fisheries, seine and gillnet and troll, and so there's a lot of moving parts, and we do the best we can, between state management and federal management, but we have a long ways to go as well. Even in some of our rationalized fisheries, we're probably still doing things we shouldn't be doing, but it all takes time, and there's management council works on that four times a year to parse our way through the structure. But all in all, we are well managed. It's just it's going to take time to get where you guys are at.
We're very inspired by what Iceland has been. They've been able to do more with less. And so what's tempting with Alaska is we might have more fish. We might not be under exactly the same pressures, but gosh, if we could just reach the level of efficiency, it would be a beautiful world. We'd drive more value, it'd be better for the local communities, the fishermen and women, the harvesters. So again, we do not want to wait until we're running out of fish to implement some of what Iceland has done under necessity. And we were trying to learn from these lessons in history. I'm pretty sure they're flashing the lights. I'm seeing some nods. So thank you, audience, 9 a.m. audience. We really appreciate you all for being here.